Tobin, thanks so much for chatting with us, first of all. And just give me a sense of what the last, I suppose, 2 weeks has been like for you, because big signing, big club, big player, but unusual times, you had to go through quarantine. So what's it been like?
Yeah, it was really difficult. I think ideally it would have been great to have just landed and started to train, especially after this long time of waiting. But yeah, quarantine was pretty brutal. Just kind of watching life go by, outside the flat. But it was a nice time to settle in, to get familiar with the apartment and to get everything that I needed to be comfortable. So I feel great about that. And now just being on the pitch is where I really wanted to be. So I'm happy it's over.
And you came at the perfect time, at least, where there's at least some good sun and nice weather in Manchester. But I wouldn't count on it to stay, I suppose. And when you hear, though, the name Manchester United, the name carries weight. Like, you feel like you could go any corner of the world, Antarctica, and ask pigeons, and they will know Manchester United. So what's been the reaction like for you from back home, friends, family, other teammates, once the signing was made public?
Yeah, I think a lot of people were a bit kind of surprised. It's a big move, especially with everything going on in the world. I was itching to play football, to play in an environment where you're trying to go for titles. And yeah, so for me, I think it was a massive club in Manchester United. I'm obsessed with football. I know all the history, and to sign for such a club was important to me in kind of my football career. But in terms of the reaction back home, Manchester United is like the American team in the Premier League, so everybody knows the weight of it back home, and was so excited and supportive for the move, and excited for me to just wear the badge that's so recognizable.
And I mean, we're talking recognizable. You're definitely someone that's recognizable. I've spoken to girls that you know very well, like Julie Foudy, who's a good friend of our show, as well as Megan Rapinoe, and they just say that you are an absolute beast in a good way. So just you and Manchester United seems like an explosive matchup, and I know fans here definitely got excited. Have you gotten a taste of that from the fan base here?
Yeah, just a small bit. Obviously, because of quarantine and the situations with the pandemic, it's a little bit harder not to have those normal interactions, with fans, and having kind of the reception that I think is normal for that. But in terms of, I've heard great things about the supporters here, and the growth of the league. Obviously, has been tremendous with the players that are coming over. So I really felt great about signing for a club that, just has so much tradition and history, and even around the city, you can just tell that Manchester is red for sure.
Love to hear that. But it's doesn't you have Kristen that's also signed as well, so it was like a double explosion that week when the news came out. Does that kind of sweeten the pot for you both, just to take on this adventure at the same time?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's pretty incredible to sign two really, really kind of powerful, explosive attacking players, obviously with two very unique skill sets. So for a club like Manchester United, who has really big ambitions in what they want to do in the WSL, to be able to sign two players, especially from the US, there's a bunch of kind of regulations that actually happen in signing in England because of the restrictions. So to be able to get, I think that us too was huge, and for us, we know that what we're capable of, and obviously super familiar from a football standpoint. So just being able to bring our strengths to the team, we really feel like we can help the group and learn a lot here.
And like you said, two very big attacking, players, explosive players as well. And that's something that I know the fan bases have been asking for, to help sort of narrow the gap with, say, the other big three in terms of like Chelsea, Arsenal, as well as City. And you said that you just like to entertain on the pitch, because that's what you like to see when you sit down and watch football. So is that pretty much the main expectation you set for yourself now?
I think the expectation at the end of the day is always to compete and to win. And that's first and foremost. The way that I like to do it and the style that I like to do it, I like to entertain and bring joy to the fans. As a fan, that's what I enjoy about the game of football. And that's how I've I've just learned the game and enjoyed it. So obviously coming over for the number one reason to win and to be successful and to grow, individually and collectively as a team, but also to bring what makes me special and gives me joy and I think gives the fans joy as well.
And you've signed on until the end of the season. Do you feel like that gives you, or that you feel like it has any more pressure on you now to kind of deliver immediately, since it is just a one season?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I only want that pressure, and I only want that expectation to deliver. It's the only thing I really know, and the place that I thrive. Coming into this environment and hearing the girls speak about the team's ambitions, and to hear Casey speak about the ambitions of the team and how they're working and the culture that they've developed in a short period of time. It's given me a lot of reassurance that this is exactly the team that I want to be a part of and to grow with. Like you said, it's just one season, but as we all know, a lot can happen in one season, and we would really love to make it happen this year. And I think I'm going to learn a lot about, obviously the culture and the football over here. And I think all of those experiences I'm super excited for.
And of course, you expect always a little bit of wiggle room to get used to, a new place, a new league, that kind of thing. But you, of course, have delivered on the highest level, being the World Cup, on more than one occasion. So do you feel like that experience kind of helps you not need as much of that wiggle room to settle that maybe some other younger ones may need?
Yeah, I think that anytime I mean, I guess having that experience just helps you kind of know yourself more as a football player. So it's easy to kind of fit in, I guess, a little bit more. But I think in terms of my own personal expectations, is always to be better than I was yesterday. So I don't want any wiggle room or whatever room. I'm here to compete and play, and that's the type of football I want.
And then I know, of course, we're all super excited to have you here, but how hard is it to say bye to Portland? Because I know that you did say that definitely holds a huge place in your heart. It's home when you think of it, but of course, with the uncertainty of the COVID pandemic and, what's going on in the USA right now, was that kind of a huge motivational factor to come here and play?
Yeah, it's extremely hard. I mean, I've been in Portland since the beginning of the NWSL, and it is my home. It's where I've made my home. I love it there. I love the people. I love the club. It is the biggest club in the NWSL by far, and I'm lucky to play for that club and have had some beautiful memories there, and expect to be back. But with the situation with so many things, not just COVID in the US, it was a really impossible situation. And especially, I haven't played a real game of football since March, and it was a long time to press pause on my career. And it was something that I really had to weigh. And it was a very tough decision because I have given so much of, my career there, my heart there. And, but this was an important decision for my career and for what I want to accomplish.
And it's something that we've been talking about on ESPN FC as well with Julie Foudy, who you'll know quite well. And, just a week ago on our show, she did say that she understands the need for you guys to come over here and play, given the difficult situation with the pandemic going on in the USA. But what would you say, I suppose, to those that are back home, say in Portland, or just fans of the NWSL that might be a little worried that, they're losing some of the big stars and that might stunt their league there back home?
No, I mean, the NWSL is a great league, and it's so competitive from every single team, every single game, and they have the right people and they're invested in that league. And it's unfortunate that I guess the outcome right now isn't what it needs to be in order for people to, have a place to continue to grow and develop and to compete in games that matter, honestly. So that's a shame. And I know everybody's worked really, really hard, to continue the success of the league. So I'm not worried about that. I think it's also natural and actually good for players to go overseas. I mean, I went overseas and played in France for 2 years. I think it's, obviously different circumstances, but for the growth of our players and the development of our players, I think it's crucial. So I think that either way, whether it was the pandemic or not, I would have always supported players going overseas to develop and learn and grow in their game.
And then it's definitely great to have you guys over here. As I was just talking to Zach, Stephanie says it is crazy but exciting to see so many of you guys have come over. I mean, you look at City and you have Rose Lavelle, you've got Sam Mewis, and you've got Alex Morgan now at Spurs, both of you at Man United. But in terms of the derby, because that's where I definitely want to talk. I mean, we saw a record-breaking number of people go into the derby, the women's derby, just last season. So can we expect a bit more fireworks now that you ladies are getting involved, and it's probably a little friendly rivalry, so to speak?
Yeah, I think it's great and it's exciting. Obviously, Rose and Sam are incredible players as well, and I was really proud of their move and their jump, because it's not easy to come to another country. You're uncomfortable, like back home you're comfortable, and I'm really proud of them for making that jump, and I know that they'll make a big impact there because they're great players. And in terms of the derby, I mean, we compete against each other all the time in the US, and obviously with each other. So that's going to bring a little bit more excitement. Hopefully we'll bring new fans in as well to this league and to what the league has to offer. And maybe create, more of a American kind of rivalry here in Manchester. But it's something that I know that we love. We love to compete. It's kind of in all of our DNA. So it will definitely be a fun matchup.
And then finally, you've definitely played in Europe before. We've seen, I suppose, in the last couple of years, just more money being pumped into the women's leagues and the women's game here, which definitely gets people excited and understandably, draws, say, a lot of the women's players from the States to come over here as well. Ultimately, do you think that that's the best thing for the development of the women's game?
Yeah, I think globally, more and more leagues, obviously resources are critical. More and more leagues have to develop. We've done a great job creating systems in the US that have, developed players and allowed them to succeed on an international level. And you're seeing it's really transforming international teams in the way that they're competing in the big tournaments. I think, Spain is a great example of a team that their league has so much potential. And obviously we know the just attraction of the Premier League in general in the US and the amount of money that is available. And, if some of that is poured into the women's game, you would see, crazy effects on an international level. So I think globally, as much resources that can be put into the women's game and develop the leagues is critical. And also it brings competition within the leagues, to fight for big players. I think that's important. I think for any environment to thrive, you need that competition. So I hope that, leagues will be able to compete against other leagues. We saw that in the ICC. I think that was fantastic when, we saw Lyon and we saw North Carolina play against each other. I hope that there's more opportunities like that for, leagues to compete, because here, obviously you have Champions League, which is just growing and it's huge. And that's a big draw for big players to play over here. I would love to see more of a global competition, other than the World Cup where you can really see, the leagues compete against each other.
Do you think we're that much closer to that?
I think every day is a massive step for the women's game. I mean, when I look back at I like looking back in 4-year cycles. I feel like there's just been huge jumps in the women's game, and not just in kind of like the resources and the product that's being put, but in the players. I mean, the amount of players that are being developed at an insane rate now. The growth of the game, it's incredible. It's really fun to be a part of. And I know looking back, it's just going to be, it's going to continue. And it is a great investment. It's an area that has, been underinvested in. And I honestly believe that you could see it in the World Cup. It's an incredible investment to make, and it's only going to get better.